Thomas ji. I welcome you all the panelists for today's program and all the participants who have joined from different parts of the country to this very important event being organized jointly by the National Centre for Innovation and Distance Education and the Regional Centre Bhopal. I welcome Sarath Chaubey ji, Dr. Professor Khambayev ji, Dr. Pandey ji, and our other panelists. I would like to name Professor Pradhan and my colleague Dr. Hema Pant and Pandey ji. Indeed, today's topic is very important. We have been discussing about the national education policy. It has been now well known to all of us. What are its features? What kind of recommendations are there? What kind of suggestions are there? Now, very important aspect and the challenge before all of us is to implement it in the spirit it has been designed and developed. So in that context, today's topic that has been chosen to create an effective teaching learning environment in higher education institutions. Because this teaching learning environment, we know that plays a very important role, not only in implementing this national education policy, but I think in creating a better citizen of the country who will be contributing towards the society, to the country. So in that context, today's topic is going to be very important, and we are thankful to all our panelists from different organizations who have rich experience in their field, and they will be sharing their experiences, their expertises on this important aspect of how to implement this very important concept of making teaching learning environment more effective in higher education institutions. In this context, I would like to just share with you, in the national education policy, we know in the that section 12, this has been very prominently mentioned, how to create an effective learning environment. A comprehensive approach has been mentioned there. And that approach basically comprises of, I can say, the four aspects. One is to create adequate curriculum, appropriate curriculum, and then provide a high quality pedagogy also to implement that curriculum. And very important aspect is the formative assessment, and another important aspect is to provide different kind of adequate support services, student support services to the students. So basically creating the environment, effective teaching learning environment that revolves around these four components. And we will be discussing about these four components today: how to design and develop a curriculum that takes care of the interests of the student, that takes care of different recommendations given in the national education policy, what kind of pedagogy should be there, what kind of different approaches should be there, innovative approaches should be there, so that whatever is being conceived in the curriculum, that is effectively implemented and that is converted into proper outcome-based learning. And how that experiential learning can be integrated with that. And these all aspects basically will depending on the assessment part also, because we have witnessed that any education system, education policy, which has been designed till date, they have been primarily governed by the examination system, assessment system. Because whatever curriculum we are making, whatever approach we are thinking of, they are basically, we can say, diverted as per the assessment system. So this formative assessment system, and that too in a continuous way, will be playing very important role. And that is a very great challenge before all of us. Because we have been talking about lot about this continuous and comprehensive assessment. We have seen in the last decade itself in the school education system, this continuous and comprehensive evaluation system that was implemented, but it could not be sustained for long. Though we all who are in this field, they agree that it is a very important aspect to implement the concepts and the things which we are thinking to develop among our students. But that was a great challenge, and because of many reasons, it had to be discontinued. But now this national education policy suggests about this. So it is again a challenge before all of us, how to make it more effective, so that it is not examination centric. Basically, it should become a learning centric kind of a system. And in addition to that, the support services, the student support services, they are also very important aspect in this. So how to make more effective learner support services, what kind of innovations could be there, what kind of practices which are going on in different organizations, they can be implemented in a different way in this context. So these all things will be very important to be discussed in today's panel discussions. We are really thankful to all the panelists, and I hope these all aspects will be discussed today, and we will be all learning about how these concepts and suggestions, recommendations given in the national education policy can be effectively implemented so as to create a more effective, more learner-centric, more that outcome-oriented teaching learning system in the higher education system. So with that, I once again welcome you all for this panel discussion today in the evening. And we all know that who have joined this session, really they are dedicated persons who have interest in implementing the national education policy more effectively. So this will be very useful for all of you. So thank you very much for joining. And now, Dr. Thomas, you can take it further. You can invite experts one by one, and then we can listen to them, make it more interactive also. We can make it like a question answer also. You may decide maybe after each panelist discussion or maybe at the end of the panel discussion, so that you can decide. Thank you very much to all of you.
Thank you, Dr. O.P. Sharma, for giving a summary of the and giving a gist of para 12 of the national education policy, which is creating an optimal learning environment and student support in higher educational institutions. Thank you, sir, because your initial remarks have actually set the stage for this panel discussion. So with that, if you all agree, then maybe we can ask each of the panelists to talk for 5 to 7 minutes or maximum 10 minutes. And then after each one speaks, maybe we can take questions from the participants. If you all agree, we continue in that manner.
Okay, ma'am. Can I proceed?
Okay, sir. Please. Okay. So, Professor S.C. Chaube, sir, I would like to give you a brief introduction before you, so that for the benefit of all the participants present.
Okay.
Professor S.C. Chaube is Professor and Dean, Faculty of Electrical and Electronics Engineering at RGPV Bhopal. He has 34 years of teaching and research experience. Formerly, he has served as faculty at SGSITS Indore and as Professor of Electrical Engineering at Government Engineering College, Rewa. He is actively involved in research related to fault determination in electrical circuit, voltage stability and power system security, microprocessors applications. He has worked extensively on the various classical and soft computing optimization techniques. He has supervised students for their doctoral programs and has published in various journals, presented at national and international conferences. He has been awarded twice the Pandit Madan Mohan Malviya Memorial Medal, once Tata Rao Prize Gold Medal, and thrice with the Certificate of Merit by the Institution of Engineers at national level. That was a very brief introduction of Dr. Chaube. He has a long list of achievements, but that is a brief introduction. With these words, I request Professor S.C. Chaube to talk and give his views on the topic.
Thank you very much. Nice introduction. First, I would like to mention about the curriculum aspect, which Dr. O.P. Sharma already narrated, that most important any university or and that it should be vision and mission of the institute. Whole very fast rate. This curriculum needs to be semester wise or yearly, so that we social requirements. We can meet the PR survey. We can see
इसमें डॉक्टर साहब आपकी आवाज बहुत ब्रेक हो रही है. What I would like to suggest is that you can if you can switch off your video, maybe you will get enough bandwidth to.
Now is it clear?
Sir, yes, now better.
Yeah,
Is it clear? Okay. As to the state of the technology, every other technology is there, and the students need to learn. So they have to get implied. One of the very important objective of the NAP that students should be, that curriculum should get employment. That is a major challenge for all of us. Okay. And other part, the delivery of the curriculum. How to.
Excuse me, sir, we are still not able to hear you properly.
Let us see 1 minute.
The voice is breaking in between.
My voice is clear?
Now we can hear you. Yes.
And so what I was talking about, the delivery of the content, and where we need a pedagogy. So pedagogy means that as experienced teacher, how we can deliver so that the students can understand. There are a different category of the students in the classroom. Someone has slow learners, fast learners, and what the methodology we have to adopt. And that is, we cannot fix that this is the pedagogy that you have to adopt. This is the pedagogy that this particular class has to be adopted. It is all depends upon when the teacher enters the classroom. And it all depends when the teacher is interacting with the students. He finds that what students want and how he should deliver the talk. After this, that the students needs to be assessed. Why assessment is required? We are delivering our content, how much students are getting benefited, and therefore that assessment where we need to have some innovative ideas while assessing the students. There are certain guidelines which has been laid down by the NBA, and we are using those guidelines to improve the learning capability of the students. For that purpose, in all mid-semester examination, students are given certain level of the questions, and then we see that in the next semester, in the next mid-sem examinations, how much students has improved, whether it is analytical questions or creativity is involved, or whether it is a fundamental type of questions. So all these, when we club this, then we see that the students are able to learn more or not. If the teacher finds no, then he has to adopt some new ideas, so that particularly the objective is to create a learning environment for the students. Not only here that the students, because students, if you teacher is ready, yes, good delivery, everything is there, but the very much important is the student support. If the whole in the campus, whether the students is, one has to take care about the students' wellness, fitness, proper care has to be taken. Students need to be cared properly. What type of that the students are living in the hostel campus, whether they are getting the proper food or not, that all has to be taken care. When only we want to ensure the a proper learning environment in the campus. Students must be involved in other activities. For that purpose, in the institute level, there are many clubs, there are many events where sometimes higher education institutions are funding, or somehow department level, institute level, all these should be organized so that we can ensure a multifaceted development of the students. Okay, madam, over to you. Hello.
Thank you, sir, for giving your opinions on the topic, especially on the engaging pedagogy and other relevant aspects, which are cornerstones for quality learning. So, because of issue in connectivity, we couldn't hear the initial part of your comments. But I think during the discussion, those things will be clearer. So now we move over to the other panelists. Professor Pradhan.
Thank you, madam.
So we move over to Professor Pradhan and follow, and then to Professor Khambayat. So before I request Professor Pradhan for his remarks, a brief introduction. Sir, if you permit, I'll just, for the benefit of our participants, his list of achievements and contributions to the field of education is big, but in the interest of our participants, I'll spell it out. I'll try to be very brief. Professor Nityanand Pradhan is a person of education. Currently, he works at the Northeast Regional Institute of Education, NCIDE, Shillong, Meghalaya. Earlier, he has served as principal, Regional Institute of Education, Shamla Hills, Bhopal. That was the time when we were fortunate, the IGNOU fraternity were fortunate to meet him when he was at Bhopal. He has served in various capacities at various educational institutions. He has completed 28 research projects funded by state, national, and international agencies, Planning Commission, Planning and Coordination Department, Government of Odisha, University Grants Commission, in diverse areas of adult education, school education, and teacher education. As many as 17 scholars have been awarded PhD under him. He has published and presented widely at national and international levels. He has developed a number of instructional materials for the teachers, academic leaders, and teacher educators on training strategies, ICT pedagogy integration, action research, teaching of social sciences, and he was also invited by NAC as a member of the review team. That was a very brief introduction of Professor Pradhan. With these words, I request Professor Pradhan to please share his views on the topic.
Thank you, Madam Ginny Toms, Regional Director, Bhopal, RC, and Professor Pandey, Director, Regional Service Division, and I met him when he was at Bhopal. My esteemed colleague, previous colleague, Professor Rajesh Khambayat, we were together. He was Joint Director, and I was.
आपका वॉल्यूम थोड़ा कम लग रहा है मुझे, मिस थोड़ा सा.
Okay. Let me repeat the volume. Is it okay, sir? Now? Is it okay, sir? Volume?
It's better than before, लेकिन कम है sir अभी भी.
So
अभी भी कम है, but it's better than earlier.
So I think I have given the highest volume now, but I will increase my volume. So also Dr. O.P. Sharma, Director, National Centre for Innovations in Distance Education, and other esteemed panelists like Dr. Hemapant and Dr. S.C. Chaube and others, all the participants present in this panel discussion. First of all, I would like to thank all of you for inviting me. So when I saw the topic, I tried to find a connection between effective learning environment or optimum learning environment and innovative practices. So I just thought this way, like innovations are creators and the creators of effective learning environment. It means that in an effective learning environment, only innovations can happen. And innovation also contributes to an effective learning environment. Let me make a difference between a quality higher education institution and an excellent higher education institution. A quality higher education institution is one that meets certain criteria of quality. For example, when we visit NAC or any NAC team visits, they have certain criteria. When any institution that meets the criteria, they are called quality higher education institutions. But an excellent higher education institution is one
Unable to hear you, sir.
I think video has freezed. कुछ problem आ गई है लगता है सर. Sir, you can reload your video.
दोबारा कनेक्ट करना पड़ेगा. एक बार फोन करके बात कर लीजिए.
that
So while we try to contact Professor Pradhan, maybe we can request the next panelist, Professor Khambayat, to continue with the discussion. Khambayat, sir?
Am I loud enough, ma'am?
Yes, we can hear you clearly.
Yeah.
Sir, before you proceed, I would like to briefly introduce you so that all the panelists can know about you. Dr. Rajesh P. Khambayat presently holds the position of Professor, Department of Technical and Vocational Education and Training at the National Institute of Technical Teachers Training and Research in Bhopal. He was formerly the Joint Director, PSS Central Institute of Vocational Education, Bhopal, which is a constituent unit of NCERT. He has worked as an individual consultant with UNESCO and was involved as international specialist, skill standards and curriculum for the Asian Development Bank. In addition, he has served as an international faculty consultant for 3 years at the Colombo Plan Staff College for Technician Education, an intergovernmental and international organization in Asia and Pacific region based in Philippines. He is also a certified international accreditor of the Asia Pacific Accreditation Certification Commission, Philippines. That is a brief introduction of Professor Khambayat. With that, I request you, sir, to please give your comments on the topic.
Thank you. Thank you for the generous introduction, madam. A very warm good evening to all of you. Let me begin thanking the organizers for inviting me to be the part of this wonderful topic that we are going to deliberate. If you kindly permit, in the interest of the bandwidth, I can switch off the camera so that you can listen to me carefully. Well, the topic chosen is, I think, very, very important when we talk about higher education. I think the fact when we talk about learning environment, we are all aware. We all talk about, the whole means of components like teaching for student learning. It involves the learning resources, technology, pedagogy, the way of teaching means, mode of learning, and more importantly, the societal and the global context is also included when we talk about the learning environment. And to make this new environment, to enable conducive, safe, and effective, we must make this environment very enjoyable, very engaging. And at the same time, it must be very much trustable. Then this environment really becomes the integral part of the student's development. That is how I foresee when we talk about learning environment. I think recently we have all seen a paradigm shift, especially after the adoption of the National Education Policy 2020 by Government of India and the approach towards learning. If you just go through the shift, we could see this new policy. We'll be able to understand that this environment much more genuinely if there is a shift from content specific to the learner specific. So learner become now the central of our action. So far, we have been very much on content specific. We focus much on the content, but now the focus has been shifted from content to the learners. We have to look at for the learner needs, the learner's diversity, knowledge requirement, learner's behavior, and all that is received, and more towards creation of learning solutions. We have to go beyond the traditional learner's student solution for more, practical purposes, for the more holistic development. I think the focus, we want is more on holistic development. Not only, definitely, they don't want make our student to be one subject expert, but rather the students expect for a holistic development. And that is why there is a focus on integrated learning. And also we can see the collaborative learning also highlighted by respected Chobe sir. So far, we have been focusing on this issue, but with this recent development, collaborative learning, integrative learning are becoming much more important for all of us and becoming more popular. And the second very important shift that we all should acknowledge is that the focus is now respecting the diversity. So maybe we are not very much thinking about in particular kind of system only within the system we are working, but now we can be seeing divergent views, diversity of the students, and the differences in various aspects. It can be the behavior of the student. That is why we have to get the shift for our understanding and recognizing the diversity of the student and also recognizing the local context. I think the local context has strongly been advocated by our Honorable Prime Minister, sir, and we must be very vocal up for local, and this is being done. There is the extensive use of technology already, but national policy prior to very basically focusing on this issue, the big technology, the most modern technology, talking about artificial intelligence, talking about design thinking, talking about creativity, innovations, and invention, and all these things have to be taken into consideration for this purpose, I feel. So far, we have been just thinking about how can we make best use of the technology for the purpose of providing enabling and conducive and the effective learning environment to the student, and that embark into continuous review and feedback that we have to really take into account. So there are a lot many changes happening, and we have to be very much concerned about the physical environment, but we have to also look for not only physical but social, cultural, psychological, emotional environment that has to be strengthened. So we have to basically facilitate among the student so they can work really very effectively. They can work very efficiently, and their learning is facilitated, and the learning is becoming much more important to them. I think I will stop here with the remarks, and then I will continue my input on the deliberations and all that. Once again, thank you, IGNOU, for inviting me a part of this. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Khambayat, for giving a very crisp view of the para 12 that we are discussing. Thanks a lot. If Professor Pradhan has joined us back, I request sir to please come in. While we wait for him, I'll now request our next panelist, Dr. O.P. Sharma sir, to give your views.
Thank you. In fact, what has been talked about the curriculum and pedagogy and the assessment, basically, these are very important aspects when we talk about creating an effective learning environment in any institute. When we talk about curriculum, in fact, the national education policy that recommends that there should be an appropriate curriculum. What means that appropriate curriculum? That we can say what we want to teach students. Why do we want to teach certain thing? That is more important, instead of saying like anything what is coming to our mind, whatever we have been looking at from content point of view, concept point of view. Instead of giving that everything, now the national education policy that says that it should be appropriate to the learners, why they should study that particular concept or content that you want to cover in the curriculum. That is very important aspect, because for example, you take any subject, in that subject there are many concepts, many aspects are there, but we should not cover each and everything just for the sake of covering the things, like certain things are left out, certain things must be there. Instead of thinking for that, it is very important whatever we want to give, why we are giving, and what type of things we want to give. That is very important. Most important aspect is how to make it interesting and then relevant also to the students, because whatever content we are giving in a syllabi of at any level, particularly the higher education level, that should be related to their life, that should be related to certain skill, what kind of development we want to see in among the students, what kind of behavioral change we want to see among the students, what kind of skills we want to develop among the students, so that they are ready to serve the society. They are basically what Professor Khambait has mentioned, vocal for local, taking care of the need of the students, need of the persons around them. What kind of actual regional needs are there? That is very important. So this curriculum aspect is very important, and we should think of what we want to give and then why do we want to give, instead of giving each and everything what we have in mind. And it is also very important that curriculum should be very flexible kind of now that system, so that it is not like a one time we have developed and then that is continuing for years to come. It should have a provision of updating it from time to time, and then I think in that context technology can play a great role, because now when we are developing the curriculum, the study material, or whatever learning resources we are providing, if they are provided in a soft copy in digital format, then I think there will be scope for updating the content and the curriculum from time to time. And that is more important because the way the technology is changing, way the needs of the learners are changing, we need to update the things, we need to update the concept and the content given in the curriculum and the study material very frequently. And also, it is also very important that the curriculum should promote the innovation and flexibility. It's not like we are giving something and then a kind of a routine thing. It should be focusing on developing the innovative mindset among the students. And for that, not only the curriculum should be innovative, but it should have the component of how that innovation and creativity can be inculcated among the students. Because we know most of the programs, particularly at the graduate or under the postgraduate level, they have a component of project and other kind of provisions, where the students are supposed to do something, they are supposed to investigate and then come out with certain reports. If that is promoting or encouraging the innovation, then I think it will be more relevant also. So that is very important to focus on the curriculum. And the next aspect, what has been talked about right now, that is also the pedagogy. Because whatever we are thinking, it should be taught to the students in the higher education level. If you are not modifying, if you are not improving, if you are not innovating in the pedagogy, the way we are teaching the students, then I think we will not be deviating much from the traditional thing. So now, very important aspect is we should think of some innovative ways of teaching, learning also, so that the students are properly engaged in the teaching learning system. That is very important, because if you are not involving the students in the system, then that may not be effective. And also, we cannot think of creating an effective teaching learning environment. And if we are trying to encourage the students towards the experiential learning, and then whatever they are looking around them, whatever they are observing around them, then I think that will be a challenge for us. So accordingly, we'll have to modify the pedagogy also. So what kind of methodologies, pedagogies we should think, that I think we should think of. And question before all of us is how to do that, because we have been talking about that there should be a change in pedagogy. What kind of change should be there? What kind of deviation from the traditional or the existing pedagogy we can think of in view of the national education policy? That is a great challenge. And in that context, I think we should learn from the best practices or the initiatives, innovative initiatives taken by different other organizations. In this context, I think we at IGNOU can take some kind of initiative to identify such pedagogies, such approaches in different organizations, and compile them, and then can share with the with other organizations so that they can replicate or they can modify those and then implement as per the NEP 2020. And then next thing that is a very important aspect is the assessment. And in that assessment, normally we have been looking at assessment as the term and examination only, because many times we think the student take admission and then learn whatever they are learning. If they are getting very good marks in the final examination, that is the end. But I think this policy, national education policy, because it is emphasizing on the continuous formative assessment, in that context, it becomes very challenging for all of us how to make it more scientific, how to make it more continuous so that it is improving the teaching learning. It's not only a evaluation assessment tool, but it should be, we can say, like a learning through testing, learning through continuous testing, that kind of thing. Because the purpose of formative testing, we all know, that is not just to give certain scores and then add them in the final assessment. Basically, the purpose of formative assessment, that all of us know, is to enhance the learning, to encourage the students towards that learning by doing. How to do that? That is a great challenge, and we have, as I mentioned initially, that this experiment of continuous and comprehensive evaluation, that was experimented earlier at the school level, but there were certain problems and it had to be discontinued. But now the policy again recommends for that. It means it has certain features in it. So we should be very careful while implementing this, what kind of that implementation strategies we can think of. In that context, the great role that lies with the teachers, because the success or failure of any that kind of innovative initiative, that depends on all of us, how honestly, how effectively we are implementing. And that's why it's very important, like we should move from that examination oriented to that learning oriented kind of system, so that learning takes place, and then whatever is being learned in the classroom or in other settings, that is properly tested and that is properly applied in the day-to-day life. And then how that is being tested, that it has proper application in our day-to-day life, that is more important. So, and for these all purposes, Dr. Pradhan had mentioned, and other panelists have also mentioned, that different kind of other support systems will have to set up. We cannot leave these students simply like they learn at their own, because the policy recommends that there should be engagement of the student, there should be involvement of the students at all level, not only in the teaching learning, but in the assessment also. So for that purpose, different kind of events and activities from time to time, because they have to be organized. And in fact, this national education policy that suggests, or rather it recommends, that these all activities should be made part of the curriculum. Because so far we have been looking at like participation in the club, participation in the activities, that was considered as a co-curricular activities. But I have read in the national education policy, all of you might have been seeing, that it says that gradually we should make these all activities a part of curriculum. And how that can be part of curriculum, that is a great challenge, and we should be fair in implementing those, because the participation of students in these all activities, whether it is a literary activity, literary club, scientific club, environmental club, or innovation club, when the students are participating in these all activities and programs, there is a holistic overall development of the student, that we all agree, because that helps in enhancing their personality development, that enhance in other communication skill development, and other different kind of development takes place. So that kind of infrastructure, that kind of appropriate environment, that is also very important to create in the higher education system. And we should not take it as a supplementary or some additional kind of thing, because we all know the students who take part in these activities, they have a different kind of personality, they have different kind of communication skills, they have different kind of other skills which we are looking when we talk about the 21st century skills. So when we talk about the 21st century skills, or the skills which will be enabling them, empowering them to be innovative, to set up their enterprises, startups, or to do something at their own, then I think in that context, these all support services will be very important. And for that, the higher education institutes should not only help them in learning effectively, but I think they should encourage them in doing something at their own, so that they are able to do something for the society, set up enterprises, set up businesses, and these all things will be very useful. So simply they are not a person, a citizen who is having a piece of paper in the form of certificate. They are having a good knowledge, and that knowledge being applied in their day-to-day life, so that it is helpful in developing the country also. So I think these all aspects are very important when we talk about the implementation of NEP, particularly in context of creating this effective teaching learning environment. So thank you very much. I think we can discuss on these issues more when we will be talking about the topic in a question answer session. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Upi Sharma, sir, for your valuable inputs and for raising those important questions as to why to learn and what modifications can be made in the pedagogy. Now, I think we have Pradhan sir with us, so we can listen to his opinions, which were we lost it in between due to connectivity issues. Sir, I request you to first brief what you had said already in very briefly, and then proceed. Sir, your mic is off.
I don't know where I stopped.
Okay, sir. You may please continue.
So thank you very much. Sorry for the interruption due to weather here.
So the volume issue is still there. Low volume issue is still there.
So actually, due to continuous rain here, that is not possible. First of all, I would like to say, when I just saw the title of this panel discussion, I found a relationship between effective learning environment and innovative practices. So I just explained, I just examined this way, that innovations are creators and creators of effective learning environment. That means if there are innovations innovation contribute to learning environment, and innovation is also a product of a good or effective learning environment. So when we say that any variable that contributes to quality learning also contribute to quality learning environment. So I just make a difference between quality higher education and excellent higher education. When we say, then only you can say that what is the value of innovations in higher education sector, research and innovations. So quality higher education is one that meets the certain criteria, like NAAC has 7 criteria. When these 7 criteria are met, then we say this is quality higher education. But an excellent higher education is one that is based on evidence. That's evidence-based education, whether it is pedagogy, whether it is curriculum, whether it is assessment, learner assessment. So research and innovations are fundamental or critical to an excellent system of higher education. And our national education policy talks about transforming higher education system and transforming the entire system of education, particularly giving emphasis on values and culture or ethos of India. So, in para 12, as my co-panelists have already said, that an effective learning environment happens when there is an relevant and updated curriculum, then when pedagogy is another aspect, then learner assessment is another aspect, and learner support is another aspect. But I also feel that there are so many other aspects also, so many other dimensions also, like infrastructure, organizational climate, learning resources, and learning resource centers, and governance also. So there may be some other factors also that contribute to effective learning environment. Coming to curriculum, as friends have already said about now we talk about learning outcome-based curriculum, because in every curriculum, for every course, you can say that learning outcomes are identified. And now, starting from school education to higher education, we first set certain learning outcomes by the end of a particular stage or by the end of a particular program. Certain learning outcomes have to be attained. And so when we design curriculum, whether it is a teacher-centric curriculum or participatory curriculum, like Tyler model of curriculum, it must match to the learning outcomes that is set at the beginning of the program. And coming to the pedagogy, our national education curriculum, national policy talks about experiential pedagogy. But experiential pedagogy, I mean, it is not simply learning from experience. That is some amount of when there is a reflection, when students reflect on what they learn, then that is experiential pedagogy. And now many, due to this during this COVID, and they have taught us many pedagogical practices like ICT pedagogy, ICT integrated pedagogy, participatory pedagogy, project-based learning, and culturally responsive pedagogy. Then a flipped classroom also is very important nowadays. That blend that is happens in blended mode. And you see one thing that is now in our education system, whether it is school education or higher education, there is a saying that teaching for testing. We teach for testing, we don't teach for learning. So our focus should be on learning. So the entire the process, our entire process, whether it is assessment or learner support or infrastructure, whatever, they should focus on learning, not for testing. And regarding learner assessment, many my friends have already told about continuous assessment and like that. But our national curriculum, the national policy on education talks about holistic assessment. That is called the 360-degree assessment. So the onus of learning is not only, onus of assessment or evaluation is not on the teacher. Now we say peer assessment, then teacher assessment, and self-assessment. So 360-degree assessment means 24 hours assessment. So in a traditional form of assessment was confined to teacher assessment. But this 360-degree assessment should be taken into consideration in higher education also. Now coming to learner support, you see learner support system, particularly we learn it from IGNOU. In every IGNOU regional centers, you have a very strong learner support system. But when we say in a face-to-face mode, the learner support system is not confined to only giving some information at the time of admission or regarding certification. It should be giving counseling, face-to-face counseling, and other facilities like your incubation center, wellness center, gymnasium, and so on. And infrastructure, as you know, I say classroom, playground, health center, and so on. And coming to organizational climate, I say organizational climate. So the climate, it talks about the school community relationship, principal teachers relationship, student relationship. This contribute to the organizational climate of higher education institution. That also contributes to effective learning. And learning resource centers like your ICT lab, studio, library, and learning resources, teaching learning materials. Nowadays, because of this technology, integrated education, learning resources. And another factor very important is governance. Now, you have, when you say governance, our national education policy talks about the board of governors. That is autonomy in governance. So, autonomy to higher education institutions, autonomy to teachers, and autonomy to students. When you say autonomy to higher education institution, now board of governors, every higher education institution should have board of governors as policy says. Board of governors is very powerful in appointing teachers, appointing principals also, and making their institution development plan. When an institution develops its own plan, IDP, institution development plan, then it can bring innovations. Suppose we say innovation and prescription. When a particular institution will be fully guided by the Department of Higher Education or the university, then it cannot bring innovation. Or if it brings some innovation, it cannot implement. So, for innovations, for implementation of innovations, autonomy to be given to not only institutions in the form of establishing board of governors in every educational institutions, and also academic freedom to the teachers to innovate in pedagogy, in curriculum, and in assessment. And similarly, our choice-based credit system, now that has become fundamental. Now many higher education institutions have gone for choice-based credit system, and many also are there who have not gone for choice-based credit system. Some have reverted back to a traditional system, annual system. But this choice-based credit system, they provide opportunity for innovations because there is flexibility. There is no rigidity. There is no compartmentalization of subjects chosen by the teacher. So, again, as my friends have already also told, like less emphasis on high-stake examination. We say our system is examination oriented. Teaching for testing, teaching for examination, coaching culture. These things are important. So when there will be continuous assessment, this culture will not be there. And coming to this institutional development plan. So in institutional development plan, the institution will be prompted to have a strong internal system for governance. When governance comes from the top, then institution has no freedom. But when the governance, there is a board of governors, then they have to strengthen their internal system, and they can have many topic center clubs like music club, mathematics club, science club. Then students those are interested in music, they can do that. And in prescriptive system of education, these things are not possible. And as you all know, our education system now has to be adapted to fourth industrial revolution. Cyber physical system is fourth industrial revolution is characterized by cyber physical system. So always our education system, particularly higher education system, follows the requirements or demands of fourth industrial revolution. That now artificial intelligence, now design thinking, now coding, and many new subjects are there. In addition to that, our curriculum always say we can transform India, we can strengthen our economy, we can transform India economy or health or any sector by only transforming our system of education. And that is an India-centric education, India-centric education. And that is the key to a Vishwaguru, India to become a Vishwaguru. India was Vishwaguru. But now, India is aiming to become Vishwaguru, then we should not stop. Now you can say that intercultural mobility cannot stop intercultural mobility. So when we talk of intercultural mobility is day by day increasing, our students are going out and students from other countries are also coming to our country. And we should give more facilities to foreign students. Now it is said a concept has come, internationalization at home. When we bring international students to our institutions, our higher education institutions, our students, without going to abroad, they can also have international experiences. So our students should also go. So this will also create an effective learning environment, internalization at home. So then again, as I have said, we should also give additional facilities. We should also give scope to marginalized learners. There are many new types of marginalized learners have been identified, like transgender, like urban poor students in socially disadvantaged areas. Then we cannot create an effective learning environment. Residential facilities, then there are hostel facilities, medical facilities. All these things, they contribute to an effective learning environment. So what I wanted to say, because I have already, now it is time for discussion. I'm not going for a detailed discussion. And again, I repeat the thing that innovations are creators and creators of effective learning environment. So they are just contribute to each other, and we should. We cannot say that we can have an effective learning environment or an excellent higher education system or a very robust higher education system without research and innovations. So with this, I thank all the panelists for bearing with me for this interruption due to some problems, technical problems, and thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor Pradhanji, for your presentation and for bringing many valuable points into the for discussion. Thank you. I think your presentation has given many people lots of points on which they might like to discuss. Before we go into the open forum, I request my colleague, Dr. Hema Pant, to please share her views. And also, I request all participants to keep your questions ready. You may write in the chat box, or you may keep your questions ready and raise your hand. We can take questions one by one. With that, I request Hema ma'am to please come in.
Thank you, Dr. Bini, and a very warm greetings to all the eminent panelists. And it's been a very illuminating session. Especially, of course, we would have loved to have a longer session, but then there is a constraint of time. And I think before I say anything, I'll just be very brief, because all the major aspects have been very, well illustrated and described by our members. And I just wish to say that the NEP, as we all know, and it's being reiterated, over and over again, that basically the learning environment has to change. It has to be more effective, more impactful for our learners. And I think what that means to my mind is that, we have to foster encouragement, engaging learners with the learning environment. They have to feel interested, motivated. And it's not just, as all our experts are saying, it doesn't just have to be that assessment centric learning environment, which it is as of now. That it's more to, for assessment and evaluation. I find that, the system is geared for that. And that the policy has very clearly mandated that the system has to be more learner-centric, learning-centric, rather than, teaching-centric kind of a learning environment. So, and all the major aspects have been touched upon. I just wish to highlight that, basically learner support is also equally essential. Like, what kind of support are we talking about to our learners? Because this is a digital age, and in this digital age, the thought, especially in the context of higher education, we feel that we have digital natives. The age group is basically of digital natives, but yet I feel that just leaving this whole kind of dimension open to the learners, to their discretion, can be detrimental also. And research has also proven that they need assistance, exactly, that they need support, and support not just of the content or of skills or of assessment, but also, the constant guidance and support that is required, like when they are dealing with maybe new concepts or evaluating ideas, or aspiring for higher levels of competency. That is important, which we in psychological terms, that is known as a scaffolding. Then also they require feedback. Like, I think that's very important, because what kind of feedback are we providing the learners? That also determines their levels of motivation and the spirit to continue. Then whether it's with their in the face-to-face mode, or whether it's in a blended mode, or whether it's in the purely online mode, I think feedback is a very important determinant of learner motivation and engagement with the content. Then as the policy also talks about psychosocial well-being, the physical fitness, and various other aspects. So for that, I think the teacher or the learning design has to see, the instructional design has to have provision for counseling and that kind of support, and also interaction amongst the students. That's very important social dimension of learning, which we have to see in the learning environment. So as Professor Pradhan was just he just explained to all of us that we have to see that the marginalized learners, where, especially if I talk in the context of the open and distance learning, then we have to see how we are able to extend that learner support to the marginalized learners apart from the other regular learners. Because broadly, we find that learners are categorized into three groups. That we have a very motivated group of learners who are which is, of course, the autonomous learners, which we call, they're self-motivated. They have a basic some level of education. But the new entrants, the novice learners, they lack basic skills, so they are at the other end. And we find majority are in the middle, so they need a definite they require support, because they are known as the fence sitters. They might just they contribute, I think, maximum to the dropout numbers. So we have to see how these categories of learners generally, what kind of learner support they require. So I think learner support is very crucial for an effective learning environment, and how that has to be provided, that is for the teachers and the policymakers, and all of us have to see how we're going to provide those optimal learning environments which the policy has spoken of, so that we can. And as we all know, one of the important 21st century skill is self-learning. That has also been called as an important 21st century skill. So the learning design should be such that it develops self-learners or self-motivated learners who are encouraged to learn on their own. Of course, within that learning, the design, within that framework, they have an enabling environment which enables them to, seek knowledge. and their overall growth also depends on that. Now, just very briefly, I'd like to also mention that the curriculum, as per the policy, it has to be holistic, as it was just stated. Learners have to be co-constructors of knowledge. They have to be partner in the knowledge creation. Then the learning environment also has to foster development of life skills, which is, I think, very important. The content has to be the learning, the entire teaching learning framework has to foster development of life skills. But how that has to be done, we can come through our discussions in this session. Then some of the important leadership skills. Then how we've been talking about self-employment, entrepreneurship, how that can be, because the learners eventually, they need to develop those skills to be employment ready, to be productive for the society, to be able to solve real world problems. So these are some of the issues which we have been dealing, and which our eminent experts have touched upon. And I think I would like to end my session presentation with that. And also just to very briefly tell you that as per the NEP, the National Education Policy mandate, initiatives have been taken by the Indira Gandhi National Open University also through its various interventions, whether it is in the area of academic counseling or online counseling, or we've been providing various platforms, including the social media platforms, the digital platforms, all that is there. But in the overall picture, how that's going to be done, we are still, it's still a long way ahead. So I thank you so much for giving me this opportunity and to say my views, to share my views. Well, now it's over to the panel. Thank you, Dr. Vinny.
Thank you, Dr. Hema, for your inputs and for your valuable views, and for touching upon upon student support in the ODL system, and also the importance of fostering life skills. But the question remains, how do we do that?
Yeah.
Thank you for that. Professor Khambai?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can I say one or 2 points here, just quickly?
Sure.
First of all, let me acknowledge Madam Hema for wonderful, insight on MEP, and also giving us a new school of thought on the learning student support system. I think we are all aware, whether it is a nationally or internationally, you compare any good institution, and you will find, apart from many other things, one of the strong attributes of any good institution is strong support system. This learning support system is there for the student. And that is why the students who are studying in a very renowned institution are always fascinated for learning because of this big change. So this is one thing. Secondly, now as NEP is strongly advocating about coming up with a learning support system for the student, what I feel is that creating a positive impact will only happen when it is in line with the changing demands of the learners. We have infrastructure, we have teachers who belong to 20th century. And we have learners, as Madam rightly said, they are, net generation and 21st century learners. So first of all, this also we have to understand while we are designing. We are still at a very early age, early stage to understand what really, we can have a strong student support system. So a lot of work has to be get into it. There are a number of ways we can do it. A couple of thoughts which comes to my mind is, first of all, at an institutional level, we can think at a 2 level. One is at a macro level, we can say, and second is at the micro level. When it comes to the macro level, where I'm talking more about the institutional level, how kind of support and system, like what kind of administration is there, what kind of laboratories, resources, technological resources, even the service department, which have been created as an infrastructure within the institution, how much they are able to facilitate at an institutional level can also be, one way of promoting the system development of student learning system. The second, which is, I think, more valuable, infrastructure can be created, resources can be created, but important is, the student engagement, whether students really feel engaged for learning, whether they find it interesting, They find it worthwhile spending their time into the campus, into the laboratories, into the labs and libraries, and so many things are there. And here comes the role of a teacher. So we have to really understand that whether we are doing it. So as an institution at a micro level, we have to think like a teacher before the class, during the class, and even after the class. How are we going to cater to the support system for the student? So these engagements are very, very important. Now we are venturing into a new area, new domain. So there is going to be a cultural shift which is required. And until and unless if you want to build a strong support system for the student, the first important foundation, I would say, that cultural shift in the higher education institution. We have to accept this change. We have to prepare ourselves for this change. And that's why it is very important that mindset change will be the first priority that we have to bring it if you really want to have a demand-driven or as per the demand of the 21st century learners into the higher education. Then only the system will work in the our Indian context and all that. So we need more communication, we need more coordination, we need more cooperation, and the mindset which I have told you. I think I recall again Dr. Sharma's word. He said about teacher. Teacher will be again a central pillar of bringing this transformation. I agree with you. I would add one more or two. Second important I would feel is training is also important. We have to really educate the people why it is so significant, how this mechanism should really work, whether there is that system has a continuous feedback mechanism where the corrections can be done, corrective actions can be taken. And the last most important thing is, now we are in the age of technology. And there are many solutions which can be made available, made accessible through use of technology. So once again, to repeat, first is teacher, we have to focus on it. Second is on training. Third is on technology. And last but not the least, the mindset change of the people. Otherwise, everything will be there, but the support system will not really function effectively and all. So let's bring collectively, let's reflect on how can we bring cultural change in our higher education institution. So I will stop for a while. Maybe let's see the questions and if anything is more required from our.
Thank you, Professor Kambayat, for those valuable thoughts. I'll request Dr. Umesh Chandra Pandey, sir, to give his views before we move on to the interaction session.
Yes, thank you very much, Dr. Binny Toms, and my fellow panelists, and all the other participants who are here. And despite the fact that the timings which we have chosen for this program actually are not very comfortable for most of the participants, but still they are there. So I will just switch off this video so that my voice is clear.
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. So a lot of ground has been already covered, and I think it has been a very enlightening discussion for me, and I've gained so many new insights about this. But the fact is, I would like to again reiterate that the existing kind of learning environment which is there in the universities again is it demands a lot to be changed. Why is it that our students don't feel interested to join classrooms? And why do they feel that these classroom transactions don't make, add any value to their life? And why they don't feel that they're missing something if they don't come to the classrooms? So that is something I feel that it talks volumes about what is happening in our university system at the moment. It requires multifaceted changes, no doubt. But there are certain, as the policy says, that on the major issues that the curriculum, pedagogy assessment, and the student support, there are the four major areas. I think they amply give us enough area, the policy support to work on these basic issues. The first thing I think that is very important, which most of the panelists have said, that as the policy says that one of the most crucial thing which is missing in the existing scheme of things is that existing curriculum actually does not involve much of the real life challenges which our students face once they come out of the universities. For instance, it may not be true for most of the students, for many students, but still if you find that even it's a graduate of the university pass out, when they come out of the university, most of the times what I've seen is that they don't feel very comfortable in, for instance, if they want to apply for the loans available in the banks for their startups, they will not be able to understand where can they go to get loans and what kind of formalities have to be done or things of that kind. Means real life situations, it does not relate our existing curriculum or what happens in our classrooms and the curriculum. It does not prepare our students to link with the kind of challenges once they come out of the university. So it's more all these kind of life skills which are so badly needed for the 21st century. I think a lot needs to be done for the planners of our curriculum to equip our students with those kind of skills to meet these challenges. That is something very important. That is precisely the reason, I think, one of the very strong reasons that the students don't feel very comfortable. They don't find our curriculum very much interesting. So these are and then as the WHO also specifies that there are 10 or something life skills for which are badly needed. Students, this socio-emotional kind of problems which the students generally face, drug addiction kind of, it is on the rise in most of the university settings, the kind of student unrest which is there in the universities, and all these things are happening because though our students unions and the students in the university campuses say a lot about the constitution and but when it comes to the real kind of gaining knowledge about this, very little they know about what is there in the Indian constitution. So all these things should be part of the curriculum or the kind of skills which are needed or the kind of extra knowledge which they need to come out of when they come out of the university system, how to meet those challenges. This is so all these kind of things should be identified. Our curriculum really needs a kind of broad-based this thing. And then industry connect is something which is very much badly missing. And I think we go on, industry and the university, there is no kind of functional relationship between them. Industry is changing so fast, technological advancements are changing so fast, new things are coming up so fast, but at the same time our curriculum is not keeping pace with those changes. And that is again, this kind of industry connect is needed. And that again is a challenge for us. And I think how actually it can be brought about, that how actually it will be done, that is something which needs to be planned. Our teachers, it is I feel that the kind of when it comes to the student support, because a lot has been said about the student support, when I feel that even now that kind of support system is not there in the university at the moment. When now our universities are going to be internationalized, and the internationalization of education is a very big issue, which is big kind of input which has been there in the this new education policy. But with this kind of a support system, will we be able to attract the foreign students in our system? I think it will be very difficult. The way the foreign universities function, there is a very, very strong kind of a support system which is there for their students. When these foreign universities and the top 100 universities of the world, I think they will be allowed to set up their campuses in India. So when they will come in the Indian market, so our universities will have to compete with them. Our student support system has to be such that we can have kind of edge, a competitive edge with them. So that is a very strong area, and I think most of the panelists have highlighted that point, is that our student support system needs to be really changed. It has to be existing kind of a student support system is in a very weak shape, and that is, I think, a very, very big challenge for our planners in the universities now. Very important issue, I think, which has now come up in this national education policy, is that the extracurriculars and the co-curriculars and these things are being treated on the same footing. That's a very healthy kind of policy guideline which is there now, because that will open up our students. These students, even I was just listening to a lecture by former ISRO chairman in the IIT Delhi, and the director of IIT Delhi said that there is a kind of a course available for all the engineering students about the classical music, a short appreciation course. So that is a kind of things which are happening, and the institutions have now started doing it. So I think our university system in a big way should focus on extracurriculars and treating and giving the students credits for these extracurricular activities they are doing. Internship or the practical exposures or the vocational training, all these things have to be part of our strategies now. So that is, I think, some of the major challenges which our systems are going to face now, as far as the curriculum and the student support, and at the same time assessment issues, as our existing systems of assessment need to complete change. This is what I feel very strongly, that not much innovation has been done by Indian universities as far as the assessment systems are concerned. We have been still relying on the same kind of high-stake 3-hour examination, and we feel that if a student does not undergo a 3-hour assessment, then obviously that kind of a degree is seen with a lot of doubt. So, and then as the technology has opened up, as technology-based systems are becoming more and more powerful and they are being accepted in the university systems, I think online examination systems or the remote proctored examinations, a lot of work needs to be done on that. We in IGNOU have been doing it. And in fact, we have been offering our courses online in different countries, and we have experimented with the remote proctored examinations. But still, if we want to do it in India, so certainly infrastructural constraints obviously come up as a big challenge, and that is an area where the innovation is required. So wherever I think innovation, as Professor Pradhan has said, that is going to be the key to all of our problems. Obviously, infrastructural constraints may be there, there may be issues of training, or there may be many other issues. But whenever there is a problem, there is scope for innovation. And that is an area where our university system or the teachers have to accept this, that innovation is the only thing which can actually address all of these problems. So we have to devise ways of how we can address the issues through innovation. And when we talk about this optimal learning environments in the university systems, all of our constraints offer us a new opportunities to do innovations. And so these things are certainly very much challenging. And as Indian higher education system opens up for this internationalization, our system have to immediately equip with kind of all these innovative moves to immediately compete with the international universities. And that is an area I think a lot needs to be done. In IGNOU, we have been doing the things, and IGNOU's international cell actually has expanded its system in different countries. We are offering our online courses, and we are doing remote proctored examinations. There are challenges, but every time it gives us a scope for doing new things. So our National Center for Innovation in Distance Education has been doing a great job, and I think our Dr. O.P. Sharma is here, and he will also enlighten us about what kind of initiatives have been taken by them to address these challenges which we are facing in university systems. And now the biggest one more thing which I think is very much important is that online ODL system and these are face-to-face conventional systems. They have come on the same platform. So from the UGC's point of view, or from in the university system, all these three major modes of giving education, they are being treated with the same level of recognition. So how to converse them, how to share expertise, how to kind of collaborate and actually address jointly the issues is again a major area of concern for all of us in the university systems. So thank you very much, Dr. Binny Toms, for organizing such an important discussion. And we can have more number of such programs in future. And thank you very much to all. And I would like to extend my sincere thanks to other panelists who are from Dr. Kambaya, Dr. Pradhan, and Dr. Chobe. Thank you very much once again.
Thank you, sir, for sharing your views. And thank you, Pandey sir, and the entire panel for a very enlightening presentation. I'm sure all the participants have a lot of now must have a lot of points for discussion. Your views have instilled queries in people's minds. So I think we can take questions. I request the participants to raise your hands and ask your questions. While our participants ask questions, I have noted down a few questions which are there in the chat box, and otherwise, there is a question about technical education which is addressed to Professor S.C. Chobe. Chobe sir, can you hear me?
Yeah, I'm here.
The question goes like this, that CBCS has now been introduced and for instilling innovation and flexibility in higher educational institutions. Please enlighten what steps have been taken by technical education institutions in this direction, and also share your views how NEP is relevant for technical education institutions.
Okay. Earlier, the CBCS has been introduced, and many institutions are running with the CBCS system. And the Madhya Pradesh RGPV has also introduced long back in 2016 about CBCS system. But probably that time our most of the institutions were not ready to adopt, because it was a very open system, and the institutions were given freedom to offer as per the demand of the students, and institutions were not ready to demand to cope up the requirements of the students. So this started into and in the form of electives. And in 2017, AICTE launched a model curriculum which has given a scope for the students to adopt most of the electives. The electives are given in the emerging areas, and any students can adopt. And the university has also awarding the minor degree in the students where the students are willing to adopt, or students are willing to read certain areas which are not related to their parent branch. For example, if the students are learning electrical engineering and he wants to get a minor degree in computer science engineering, yes, this provision has been made that after the completion of certain credits, he can get awarded the minor degree in computer science and the complete degree in electrical engineering. That facility has been offered to the students, and it gives a great opportunity for the students to learn in any subject of his interest. How the NEP will have enabling the students. Now the national education policy under this banner, most of the university has the very bitter experience when after the 1 year or 2 years, students leave the courses, and you know that once students leave, even after 3rd year, he has only the 12th class degree, and he will not have any job in the market because he has got the 12th class. Looking to this, now under the NEP, what the provision has been made, after the 1st year, if a student is not able to complete his degree, he wants to leave because of certain circumstances, yes, after the 1st year, he will be offered 10 weeks skill development program. And after the completion of that skill development program, he will be awarded a certificate based on which he can apply, he can get any job in the market. Number 2, after the 2nd year, if he wants still to continue, then again he will be given a diploma again after the 10 years completion of the skill development program. Why the skilling? Students need skilling because he can get a job in the market. That is the major advantage of NEP. So if through NEP, students can, and one more important component of this, that after second year, the students goes and joins some job. But after 3 years, he wants to come back, and that he insists that he wants to continue his BTech program. Yes, he can continue, and the credits of the first year and second year will be deposited as a academic credit. So that facility is there, that the students has been given the full opportunity that even after the second year, third year, he leaves the program, but he can come back and join. So this is all the opportunities which we can see, and for the benefit of the students.
Thank you, sir, for answering that question. And so many of the participants would now know that in technical education institutions also, for dropouts, now there is hope, and they are not left out, even if they have to drop out of their course in midway. Thank you, sir, for that answer. There is another question. This is from Dr. S.D. Agrawal. I think I can see him. If he wishes, he can ask the question himself, or I can read it out. Please ask your question.
Madam, in the new National Education Policy 2020, the educational institutions have been given a lot of autonomy, and the learners have been given much autonomy in regards of selecting their subjects. And the teachers too have been given academic freedom up to a long extent. My question is that the higher education institutions will be free to adjust their own curriculum, prepare their own curriculum, and impart degrees. So there will be a lot of difference between institution to institutions in regards to a particular subject or a particular topic. So how to balance it?
Professor Pradhan or Professor Khambayat, would you like to take this question?
This is a very relevant question, but I would like to say that we are talking of innovations. But so far, innovation is one of the most neglected area in the system of education. In industry, innovations has taken place. We have Dr. Pandey was talking about industry linkage, industry school linkage. We have during my stay at Bhopal, Professor Khambayat is here. He must tell you that we just surveyed 42 industries in the city and around the city of Bhopal, and we found some innovations. But you see, tell me today, in higher education institution or in school education also, still our lesson plans are prescriptive. We are talking of innovations. 5B approach. 5 steps the students must prepare their lesson plan with 5 steps. Then where is innovation? Similarly in assessment, sir is telling about that freedom. Freedom national policy has given this freedom. That there will be board of governors, and board of governors will have the power to develop their curriculum, develop their institutional plan, and also they will have to appoint even principal. But you see, now this policy says there are so many unfinished agenda of 1986 policy. After 34 years, still many agenda of 1986 policy has not happened. And starting from 6% GDP to be devoted to education, to invested in education. But But now what policy says, if they are properly implemented, if they are properly implemented, then that things will happen. That things will happen. But I am not sure whether these whatever is told about academic freedom, what percentage of freedom will be implemented. That implementation is very important. But in every discussion in the policy, NEP 2020, people talk about implementation. People talk about implementation. But you see, now whatever has been told about so many subjects, about 360-degree assessment, peer assessment, parent assessment, then self-assessment. So I think let us see what is happening. And as you said, we have to maintain a balance. We have to give credit to innovation. We have to give credit to innovation. If we say that these innovations are not up to the mark, or this doesn't match to the higher education qualification framework, there are so many things. Whatever innovation we do, that must match to the higher education qualification framework. Now, vocational education qualification framework, national skill qualification framework we have. But now policy says there will be higher education qualification framework. So whatever we do, that must match to the higher education qualification framework. Otherwise, this academic freedom will not operate. You have freedom. You have freedom. You have freedom. But your freedom should not affect the quality. So this is, I think, this is what I want to communicate, that this freedom may also create confusion if it doesn't match the higher education qualification framework, which is going to happen. Till today, we do not have a higher education qualification framework, as it happens in vocational education. Professor Khambayat knows it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor Pradhan, for that answer, which has given a lot of clarity to that query which had come up from Shambhu Dayal Agarwal sir. You talked about quality framework. Definitely, that would be like when we talk of standardization, that is what we have to look up to. Thank you, sir, for your answer. Now I request Professor Khambayat also to throw light or give your response to that question, because I hope you heard the question.
Can you please repeat again, if you don't mind?
Yes. Professor Dr. S.D. Agarwal, one of our participants, felt that since the new education policy talks about multidisciplinary approach and autonomy to various stakeholders, be it academicians, higher educational institutions, so in that case, would standardization be affected? Or there would be, he feels that there might be a lot of variation when we talk of freedom on the part of the teachers and the institutions. So would standardization be affected? And he also asked whether how can balance and standardization be maintained?
I think this is a very important question, and there are no straitjacket answers. First of all, understand this. No institution can have a standard answer to this one. But I think Dr. Pradhan sir rightly talked about innovations, because every institution is very unique. And I also talked about local aspects are also to be taken care. So if any institution is working and going to design or offer any specific program, so it has to be demand driven. That is absolutely well understood and well articulated. Important is, when you are assigning any degree program, say whether it is a diploma or advanced diploma or degree or postgraduate degree and all that, there has to have some standard mechanism. And even that freedom is given to any institution to design any particular specific program. He or she, the institution has to work within some framework, It cannot be simply dilution of any program and just get away with the degree program. So there is already, like Pradhan sir was referring about the National Skill Qualification Framework. You know, when while I was working with Pandit Sundarlal Central Institute of Vocational Education, this issue was there because there was a lot of variation on vocational education program being offered. Now, when the government of India has notified the National Skill Qualification Framework, it was mandatory that all the curriculum has to meet the requirement of National Skill Qualification Framework. So when we started designing the curriculum for the professional courses for school education, we have to go by the standard nomenclature. So the standard nomenclature means the job sectors, the qualification which has been identified for a specific job role, that has to be only picked up. I cannot have freedom of choosing my title, because it is not aligned with National Skill Qualification Framework. Secondly, the applicability of those qualifications into the school education space. So that also relevance has to be kept into mind. The occupational standards has already been laid out by the industry bodies. So I have to take the reference of those occupational standard, national occupational standard, and that is how I have to build on the curriculum. So to the friend who is asking this question, what I'm trying to say that it's already a broad framework is already there, broad skeleton is there. Within that only you have to do. This is number one. Second, very important, which is may answer his query and all that one. Very soon, National Council for Vocational Education and Training is going to come up with the credit framework. From school to higher education, they have already come up with a credit framework. How many credits will be awarded? How many points will be accumulated to you? So academic bank of credit are also going to come. So it is also linked with what the question you have rightly raised. Because until and unless it fit into the broad framework, whatever qualification, whatever curriculum you are offering will not be acceptable. So that's also happening parallelly. I wish you can visit the draft credit framework, which is already announced by the chairman of National Council for Vocational Education and Training, and it starts from class 5 onwards. I repeat, it starts from class 5 onward to the PhD. So that framework has already been done. The point system, everything has been calculated, and it is a quite educative. It is quite reflective while we are going to design the program. So flexibility will be there, but at the same time, in an overarching framework that we have to work on it. The distinction which the institution can do, let us assuming that the curriculum is slightly different or slightly innovative, that can be one model, or the nomenclature remains one and the same. Important is the treatment that you are giving in your institution. So the same program offered by X institution and Y institution, if you want to really make a distinction in terms of offering, I think there lies the role of the institution. Here, the autonomy is going to play a big role because the institution has the full autonomy, how best they can deliver the program. How can they make it more palatable? How can they make it more industry-driven? How can they talk about 21st century skills, experiential learning? So many things we talked about it. Even we talked about the learning support system. Here comes the distinction for the institution to make the change. And I'm sure that these all things will go in hand. There are two frameworks coming up. One, I already told you about National Skill Qualification Framework. I think you must be aware that there is another framework. The draft is already in circulation, and that is the National Higher Education Qualification Framework. So these two frameworks are there. Then we have a credit system is there. So everything is in line with each other. I'm sure, we can put our programs, our designs into this framework. I'm sure it will be a reference point for all of us. I hope I answered your question.
Yes, Professor Kambaya, that was really useful. And thanks for mentioning the National Skill Quality Framework also, because that had to also be mentioned in this panel discussion. So now with CBCS, Higher Education Quality Framework, National Skill Qualification Framework, let us hope that things would be much better when we talk of a better learning environment in higher educational institutions. There is another question for Professor Kambayat. one of our participants, Latika Mishra, is mentioning that particularly in curricular aspect, the focus on learning environment and innovation is missing. We have already spoken about that. But she's comparing school education to higher education institutions. She feels that in higher education, it is totally missing, whereas in school education, it might not be that less. So how do you react to that, sir?
I do agree with her partially, on a national level, there is a lot to be done on this one, particularly in higher education institution, that I fully agree with it. But, there are encouraging changes are happening now. Encouraging changes are happening at higher education institution. In fact, private institutions, private universities are coming in a big way coming forward. They are bringing the innovation, they are bringing the change at a faster pace and all that. Okay, so there are happenings, and I think this is an opportunity. I would say it is an opportunity for all of us to reflect upon and see how robust system we can build, which is more, in tune with the demands of the changing world of work. But a lot to be done. A lot of research is required. A lot of thinking is required. But please understand that education is a slow process. But if you see the policy which has been announced in just 2 years back, and all these milestone development which Government of India has already taken, I'm very sure in the coming couple of years we are going to see a big change in the implementation pattern at a higher education institution. Already there are discussions happening, like vocational education. Again, I will say that vocational education has been already advocated from school to higher education. For school education, CBSE, NCIDE has already done a tremendous work, and a lot of work is happening at the school education. This is number one. Second important thing is, higher education institutions have already started formulating vocational education courses, vocational education programs, along with the regular program. So that when the student, he or she graduate from the schools, from the institution, they are well equipped with the skills also. So even a bachelor in arts, BA program, BCom program, BSc, so there are additional vocational courses will be now introduced by the higher education institution. So this is a big innovation which is going to take place, and UGC has already come up with the list of vocational courses. They have come up with a modular curriculum also, which is under discussions, and that is all happening and all that. Today higher education institution has a freedom, to identify the local needs, local demand, so they can have variety of vocational courses looking to the local need. Even higher education institution can introduce Lokvidya, like our art, craft, music, theater, everything. These are all the national language, the Indian knowledge which is created in India. So these courses can also be complemented with additional programs to the higher education institution. Soft skill training. So there are plethora of choices which are available to the higher education. Last but most important point I would like to add here for benefit of everyone is incubation center. So higher education institution now will be allowed to set up incubation center. Either they can do it on their own, or they can have partnership with the local industry and set up the incubation center. And that's how the future is there. That's how the young generation would like to tap their talent and potential. So incubation center is going to play a very, very important role. Simply introducing vocational courses is not going to suffice. But these incubation centers will act as like they will be guiding you how to identify business opportunity, how to prepare project proposal, how to approach financial institutions, how to launch your startup, how to launch your enterprise. Even after launching the startup and all that, if you face any problem, the guidance, counseling, mentoring, everything will be available from this incubation center. It's like a hand-holding, mechanism is going to be created in the higher education institution. I hope I answered your question. Thank you.
Yes, sir. That was useful, sir.
Actually, I was one point to only add to Dr. Ambar's.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Now, NCIRT is preparing national curriculum framework for school education.
Yes.
And you see, in our policy, it is said that there should be a linkage between higher education and school education. And so far, it has not happened. in preparing curriculum, preparing syllabus, preparing textbook. Only school education department does it standalone. Higher education department also does their work standalone. But now the policy said there should be a linkage between school education and higher education. So in national curriculum framework, we have now consultation meeting with the universities and higher education institutions. For example, for Northeast region here, Vice Chancellor Tripura University, Agartala University, he arranged this consultation program. Ministry has given, the Ministry of Education has given a responsibility to higher education institution to arrange consultation for school education and higher education. And another thing, those who will be doing PhD, and it will be mandatory that PhD students will also do internship in school education, in schools. They will go and teach in schools. So lots of things have been now coming up to link that there should be a link between school education and higher education. Now, if sometimes higher education teacher says that the students are not doing well in university or colleges because they are very poor in at school level. And similarly, schools teachers, they say that our students are very good, but when they go to college, they don't do well. So this is a very important decision in a recommendation of National Education Policy, that there should be a linkage between school education and the higher education system. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir, for that valuable information about linkage of school education and higher education. That is indeed like something which we could only imagine earlier, but it would be really useful. So there is another question from one of, because NCRT deals with all subjects. So I think I'll request Dr. Pradhan, Professor Pradhan, to address this question. One of the students feels that you talked about experiential learning and that students reflect upon what they learn. And that also is part of experiential learning. So the student is asking, does the student of humanities have lesser possibilities of experiential learning as compared to science and technical education students?
Madam, actually, experiential learning, there is a sometimes misconception that experiential learning as a learning from experience. Mm-hmm. So when we take the students to field, they get some experience that's called contextualization of learning. Mm-hmm. But experiential learning, the critical point in experiential learning is reflective. So if students are not able to reflect, suppose you take the students to a historical site, history students, let us suppose. If they are not able to reflect, then that is not experiential. That is learning from experience. They will learn different. So we are taking the students to picnic. Now you see, in a higher education institution, they say study tour. And the students go in a bus, music is there, dance is there, and they cook food, and they also visit to some important places. But there is no reflection. Teacher never asks them to, what did you see? So there should be a systematic plan for gaining the reflection from the students. So that is experiential learning. And now the experiential learning is a umbrella term. Under that, it says ICT pedagogy, your ICT pedagogy, then storytelling based pedagogy, art integrated pedagogy, and sports integrated pedagogy. So sports will be just a pedagogical practice. So now sports is for physical education, but now the policy says that sports will be also a pedagogical approach. Through sports, they will learn science, they will learn mathematics, they will learn social sciences. Similarly, through art, through music, through theatre, and Professor Khambat also knows that we have oriented 630 students in RI Bhopal on art integrated pedagogy. how using art we can teach different subjects. Now I see some students are also doing PhD on this art, how to integrate art in higher education. So this is what is the experiential learning, and the main thing is not only experience but also reflection. Reflection means thinking. Cognitive, that is what is called your cognitive apprentice. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. You very rightly said that experiential learning term has certain misconceptions, but definitely, as you clarified, reflective thinking, that is reflection on what you have learned, that is the crux when you talk about experiential learning. Thank you, sir, for that clarification. If anyone else, any of the participants wishes to ask anything, maybe you can ask. We can take a last question. Else we can close. Dr. Ashish Bilore wanted to ask something.
मैम नमस्ते मैम।
नमस्कार
मैडम मैं वही बात जो सर ने खैर क्लियर कर ही दी है, क्योंकि यदि हम अपने पिछले इतिहास को देखें तो नालंदा और तक्षशिला विश्वविद्यालय में जो शिक्षा व्यवस्थाएं होती थी, कहीं ना कहीं हम उनको फॉलो कर ही रहे हैं और उसके अच्छे परिणाम भी देखने को मिलेंगे अब ये नई शिक्षा नीति में।
प्रोफेसर खंबायत, आप इसका जवाब देंगे?
Can you please repeat the question again?
इन्होंने जो इसमें लिखा भी है, ही सेइंग, क्या पंचतंत्र जैसे सीखने सिखाने की संकल्पना उपयोगी हो सकती है?
No, actually, madam, Dr. Ashish is asking about what practices we are following in Nalanda and Taxila University. That is also being followed, but that is not being followed. Nalanda and Taxila universities, they are multidisciplinary institutions. They are Ayurveda, science, engineering, medicine in one campus. And now we are talking about multidisciplinary institution with, you see, there are at least 3,000 students. Now we have higher education institution with only 500 students, only 1,000 students. And there should be also degree education and postgraduate education in universities. Now in universities only master degree programs are there. But now the idea is that our degree, bachelor degree and master degree, there will be in one campus. So the concept of university has been changed as per national education policy. So far that has not happened. As you said, whatever was there in Nalanda and Taxila universities, that will happen if our national education policy recommendations will be followed. Large multidisciplinary universities with degree and the postgraduate system, postgraduate programs. So far that has not happened, Dr. Ashish.
I think, Dr. Ashish, you've asked two questions. One you written in the chat box. एक आपने चैट बॉक्स में लिखा है और दूसरा आपने पूछा नालंदा यूनिवर्सिटी के कंपैरिजन।
जी
एग्जांपल लेते
हुए मेरा यही पूछना था कि जैसे पंचतंत्र में विष्णु शर्मा जी ने केवल कहानी कह करके और सिखाया था, क्या इस तरह के कंसेप्ट हायर एजुकेशन में लागू किए जा सकते हैं वर्तमान में?
इनफैक्ट मैं ये कहूँगा कि एक सर्वे आप कभी देखिएगा, उसमें थोड़ा सा मैं डाइवर्ट कर रहा हूँ टॉपिक को, बट जस्ट टू कनेक्ट विथ यू, एक एम्प्लॉयमेंट सर्वे किया गया था. सॉरी, आई एम स्पीकिंग हिंदी. There was a survey, local survey was conducted to identify what industries are looking from the graduates while they are hiring. What is their preferences? So, like we as a teacher may say that knowledge is very important, skills are very important, you know. But surprisingly, the scores which came up, I'm talking about couple of years back. This study was done in Western region, and the strong focus was, acceptance by the industry was on integrity. It was focused on values that they were looking from the graduate they are hiring in their employment, in their first employment. Now think about integrity, values and all that one. You rightly said that Panchkanta was one of the mechanisms, one of the way to inculcate value education system among the young minds. So why not? Even still today, it has relevance. Even so many years, we are all product of that. We should not forget that. Whatever early years of our development has happened, it was because of these small stories, small anecdotes. And India has a rich heritage on this. Rich cultural heritage on this, Jatak Katha and so many things are there. And these are directly or indirectly are very, imbibing the values which are demanded from the world of work. So I do agree with you. It can be experimented to some extent and it can be definitely used. Only thing is, we have to have a new makeover. It has to be contextualized in the case of 21st century. I think you must have seen on WhatsApp, there was a very popular story of hare and tortoise. You remember that? I'm sure you must be remembering that. But that was an old story. But now you have seen in the new world of work that it doesn't talk about racing. Rather, it talks about complementing each other. It talks about cooperation. It talks about collaboration. The same story has been, re-energized, revisited to make it a new makeover for the 21st century learning. So why not? Why not? Our stories can be brought into a new way so that students can be inculcated the integrity, the values which the employers are looking for. Okay? So it has a power. It has a power. That's why it survived so many years, so many generations rather, I would say. Okay? So can we say...
Thank you.
I answered Ashish, your question.
Yes, Dr. Ashish.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Just a minute, I have a small just objection. Dr. Kambayat, could you give the reference of that study which you were just now referring to about what do the employers actually look for?
I will share that. I will share that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You want right now or maybe sometime later?
Okay, fine.
This is World Economic Forum's survey that carry out this kind of assessment, what kind of skills are required by the industry. And the recent one that talks about the innovation. Innovation is on top, basically. The earlier one was integrity and other value-based skills. But now these skills are changing as per the requirement of the industry. But in this context, I would like to mention one example, like you mentioned about the story-based learning, teaching learning. Now, what is happening at the management level, we are focusing more on the case studies, stories of the success stories, best practices. And the management people, they are narrating those stories in those case studies in the form of stories. And we are taking them as an integral part of our teaching learning in this case. So it is very much effective and useful even at the higher education level. It depends upon the teacher, how effectively, what kind of these stories they are collecting, and then how they are connecting that with the curriculum, the concepts, the content being taught, what kind of learning outcomes are expected. In fact, these all stories which in the form of case studies are being shared in the higher education system, particularly in the management, they are very effective also, because they are not only motivating, but they are giving different kind of lessons. Those lessons are giving new directions. They are leading the students toward the innovative approaches. They are learning from the failures of those stories. So these all basically are being practiced. But now this national education policy is basically focusing more on this. At the school level, it becomes easier to narrate these stories. Basically, we can frame stories at our own. Also, may not be true. Taking certain value, we can just frame a story and then can narrate. And if these stories are related to Panchatantra, and then they becomes basically a part of our life also. But in higher education, I think all of us will agree there is too much scope for this kind of stories, particularly in the social science and humanities subject, management subjects, and even in a science subjects also. I have seen, being a science physics person, when we talk about the story of certain discovery, story of certain invention, then it becomes more impactful, more useful, more interesting also. And then one may like to connect it with one's own life also, that can I do this kind of thing? I have been doing these things, this kind of thing for others to narrate that someone has followed that. We say that experiments are being done, best practices are being shared, maybe some learning lessons, failures or something. So we should learn and then try to do, and also share those practices with others in the
Yeah,
form.
I think it is just a teaching tool, kind of, you know.
Yeah, it is a
The
teaching
teacher
tool.
can decide if
Models are being used, different kind of
likewise.
things
Yeah,
are. Yes.
I saw somewhere that like in science teaching, sign tunes are being used. Means using cartoons as a mean of teaching physics. That is called sign tune is the word which is being used. So people try so many ways of doing the interesting things.
Sir, there is
You
also
you
another
see,
point.
this national education policy is focusing. Today's topic is basically on engaging the students in teaching learning process. When we talk about engaging the students, that is possible only when we are connecting with them directly, and the connection can be built with the help of this kind of tools only: storytelling, providing different kind of visual, audio content, and then infographics are there. So these are all tools basically which help in connecting the students with the process of teaching learning. And when the students are connected, they are engaged, they feel involved. They basically not only learn, they try to apply that knowledge in the different situations. So that is happening. But now challenge before all of us is that how to make it on a mass scale, so that everybody starts doing one or other way of um, following these kind of innovative practices.
Sir, there is also
Dr. Bini, can I just I have a
Yes,
question
Dr. Hema.
for
Please.
Professor Kambayat. I mean, I think he raised a very important point, and that was the challenge I feel is a change of mindset, which he spoke of, a cultural shift, as it were. And one important area that comes to our mind is assessment, because we find that we are still in that focus is on assessment. The pedagogy is assessment based, and the learning teaching is all assessment based. So sir, how soon do you see a kind of cultural shift which even the policy has envisaged, or what is the challenge actually? Because not just this assessment part, but by and large, as you said, for any change to happen, I think the societal mindsets have to change basically. Thank you, and over.
I think, ma'am, with your experience, I think you also know the answer to this question. But I think a couple of things I can support to your questions here is that I think, first of all, teachers are not well ready.
We had given it also.
Teachers' mindset is because we are being in NITE Bhopal. Every Monday we are meeting new kind of teachers across the country. And my initial, personal experience is that majority of the teachers are still to get themselves mindset ready for this change. It is not there. And that's why we have to really invest on change.
Anshuman, you please Anshuman?
Can you then mute it?
Yeah, Dr. Josna.
Okay. So, ma'am, if you agree with me that we have to really invest time and energy on changing the mindset of the teacher, it will not happen, one overnight or one program cannot do. I will give you one good experience, example, just to illustrate this point in a different way. National education policy talked about vocational education. I talked to you earlier from class 9 to 10. Now, we all know, even today in society, vocational education is not a preferred choice by the parents, including parents like us. We still look down upon this one. Now, to bring this change in the mindset of the parents, what we have to do? So, the policy advocated about introducing informal internship from classes 6 to 8. So, 10 bagless days will be there. And these 10 days, students will be, going around interacting with the, craftsman, technician, musician, whatever, wherever the informal internship has already been there. So, what is the purpose of this? The purpose of is, when students get exposed to all this, aspect of life, they will understand what are the different occupations in the world of work, what people really do for living, what is the significance of the skills, and how he or she can acquire those skill set when they interact with the learned, skilled persons and all that. Now, point is not here important. Important is when they bring all these learnings and experiences to the house, when they share these learnings with their parents, mother and father and all that, that is where the change is going to happen. Because when the child is convinced that skill is the only way forward, to empower himself, and when he or she bring all these on the table with the parent, when he discuss all those narratives of his own learning experiences, I'm very hopeful. I'm very hopeful in the next, down the line, say another 5 years or so, we are going to see a big change in the mindset of the people. Now, technology is there, so many awareness programs, so many initiatives, so many agencies are taking. Everybody is now realizing the importance of school. Now, skills also are changing, madam. Now, the conventional way of looking skill is also changing. You see today coding. Coding is another kind of skill, but it is a cognitive skill. So skills are no more only psychomotor skill. So cognitive skills are there, like when we talk about big data, Internet of Things, cloud computing, so many things are there. So these are all demanding a new set of skill. And these skills are 21st century skill, which predominantly talk about cognitive skills. So the context, the conventional approach of looking at the skill is also changing. So I'm very hopeful things will change. And such deliberations, such initiative which IGNOU has, organized today are really welcome step, I would say. Even we are now, it is almost 9:30, but you see our dedicated participants and the panelists are still here because we all feel emotionally attached with this. We feel to give the best wisdom, best knowledge and experiences to all of us and all that. Can I add one experience, Can I?
Sure, please, sir. Go ahead, please, sir.
I had a chance to visit NIE institution, National Institute of Education in Singapore. Health sector is a very important sector for Singapore's economy, for the workforce of Singapore, because slowly, Singapore society is also aging and they need healthcare workers. And NIE has created a wonderful training program for creating nurses. For male and female, they call nurse only, surprisingly. Okay. And this is one of the most, worldwide recognized program of NIE Singapore. I wish many of you can visit the website and find out more details. I myself have seen, we talked about experiential learning, immersive learning, integrated, so many things, collaborative learning and all that. And I could see physically there how technology has been integrated into the health sector, which is very sensitive, You won't allow people to practice on the patients and all that. So how the entire architect of the program has been designed, how the immersive learning experiences has been given to the student to get the best possible, very near to the real experience. I have seen through this, they have, bought mannequins, which are all having senses, everything is there, computer control, ICT control, the data of, thousands of patients. I repeat, the data of thousands of patients has been integrated into the system and students are given variety of experiences, even the delivery, even when there is an accident happen, how he or she is going to address the first aid and all that one, home health care and all that. All has been very structured programs are there, all entirely monitored. There is a participation of the students, teachers monitor the performance of the students online, offline. He can watch and everything. So, these are all happening around the world. And this all things has to be brought into our education system. And I think the way national education policy is advocating and all that, the holistic development of the child, I'm sure we'll be able to attain in the near future. So I will stop for a while. I hope, Madam Hema.
Thank you, sir. Yes, that's a very kind of a positive, and we are hopeful too, sir, with the kind of passion that is driving the deliberations and generally speaking. And I don't see it very far from happening.
Yeah, thanks. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Hema, for that question, and Professor Khambayat for that answer. Very interesting answer. And as Dr. Hema rightly said, let us end this discussion on that positive note. Before closing, I'll mention a few takeaways. Although many points had come up, so it's difficult to actually summarize because no point was less valuable. But taking few points, we spoke about the fact that effective learning requires a comprehensive approach that involves appropriate curriculum, engaging pedagogy, continuous formative assessment, and adequate student support. Professor Khambayat talked about recognizing diversity when we talk about engaging pedagogy, and also he mentioned about classification of environments when we talk about effective learning environments, and then that very important point about having a cultural shift and in the learning environment by changing the mindset, by bringing about a mindset change. So that was really useful. Dr. O.P. Sharma spoke about the fact that teacher might again become gain the central role in the new scheme of things. And he talked about curriculum, how that curriculum should promote innovations. Professor Pradhan made an important point that innovation contributes to effective learning environment, and innovation is the product of effective learning environment. That was very interestingly placed, also interestingly presented, and very important point. And also the misconception around experiential learning, which actually involves reflection on what the student has learned. Also, Professor Pradhan mentioned about relationships between peers, between a teacher and a student, which constitutes the organizational climate, and how that also contributes to an effective learning environment. Dr. Hema said that when we talk of student support, although digital natives, today's generation of learners, they require guidance, and also touched upon as to how student support, when we talk of student support, especially in ODL institutions, how that is important because when we consider the diversity of learners, and how fostering life skills is important. But the question is how. We have to actually think about that. And Pandey sir, he talked about the industry connect, how industry connect is required, because curriculum needs to be updated to keep pace with new developments, and that is where a connection between industry and academics is important. And he also mentioned that how ODL and face-to-face have now more or less come on the same platform. Professor Chaube mentioned in details about engaging pedagogy, understanding the needs of learners, and how in technical education institutions, the dropouts also now have possibilities. And every one of the panelists spoke about how there is a need of shift of the education system, which is geared for evaluation to a more learner-centric evaluation system. So that was a summary of what we discussed today. And it was a wonderful panel discussion. And thanks and appreciate all the panelists, grateful for staying so long with us. And before we call it a day, does Pandey sir want to say anything? Or Sharma sir?
No, I think it's now too late
Yes.
to take
Okay,
much
sir.
time. We should wind it up, but I would like to thank all. Really, it was very, very fruitful and very effective discussion. And what I think we should take up one by one different points and then bring out some actual implementation points, because a lot has been discussed, but how actually it can be experimented or can be implemented in the classroom or in that teaching learning situation, that is more important. So I think we can think of having some more discussion on these topics in days to come, but beginning is good, and we will discuss how we can take it up further. So thank you very much,
Before we
Vinny
call
ji,
it,
for organizing this program at the regional center and continuing it till late night. It's 9:30, more than 9:30 now. So
Thank you,
really,
Sharma.
it's a great dedication towards implementation of NEP. Thank you very much to all of you.
Thank you. And before we finally
Thank
call
you.
it a day, I request my colleague Dr. Anshuman to propose the vote of thanks. Anshuman.
Sorry, there was some technical error. Am I audible, ma'am?
Yes, we can hear you.
It is a great pleasure and an opportunity to thank our panelists after having such a confluence of ideas which emerged today in this fruitful engagement. So from my core of heart, I would like to express my sincere thanks and gratitude to our panelists, Professor S.C. Chaube sir, Professor Nityanand Pradhan sir, Professor Rajesh Khambayat sir, Dr. O.P. Sharma sir, Dr. U.C. Pandey sir, and Dr. Hema Pant ma'am for today's discussions and deliberations, which was on a very important topic of NEP, that was Para 12 of NEP. I would also like to express my special thanks to all the regional directors who have joined this program from different RCs, and the councillors who have joined across the Madhya Pradesh, Haryana, Rajasthan, Gujarat, and Uttar Pradesh, more or less some from Bhubaneswar also. I would also like to thank Dr. O.P. Sharma sir, under whose guidance we have been doing a lot of such programs on innovation, innovative practices, and we are taking up the innovation cell at our regional center also. I would like to thank Dr. U.C. Pandey sir, under whose able guidance we under all the RCs we are functioning and we are working for the implementation of NEP. Of last, I would like to thank my regional director, Dr. Binnie Thomas ma'am, who was the source of inspiration for organizing this program. And it is not so late. It is always at the beginning. And I hope that the suggestion given by Dr. O.P. Sharma sir will be taken by the panelists and all our officials who have attended this program, so that we can continue this program in division form or in episode form for each single topic. And of last, I would request all our teachers who have joined this program to motivate their colleagues to join the training program of NEP, a 6-day training program which is being launched by IGNOU and which is being continued. And the registration can be done from the portal, on the SWAYAM portal. So I request all the teachers who have joined, the academic counselors who have joined, to motivate their fellow peers to join this program. Thank you, and thank you very much.
Thank you. Namaskar.